Adam Silver's calm tone couldn't hide the tension. When he dismissed the WNBA players' demand for a 50% revenue split, it wasn't just a negotiation tactic. It was a statement of control. His words underscored the harsh truth. The WNBA remains financially tethered to the NBA, operating at a loss and owning less than half of its own structure. That reality enraged players who have watched Caitlin Clark transform ratings, sponsorships, and fan engagement almost overnight.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
To them, Silver's argument wasn't realism. It was dismissal. And for Kathy Angelbert, balancing this escalating feud between her players and the NBA commissioner has become a near-impossible act of leadership. As both sides dig in, the situation exposes a deeper fracture, one that goes beyond the numbers. The WNBA's future hinges on whether it can evolve into a financially independent league or remain a subsidiary in name and practice. The October 31st deadline now looms like a countdown clock to crisis, with a lockout threatening to undo years of hard-fought progress. Clark's emergence has proven how much potential exists, but also how unstable the league remains without sustainable foundations. The outcome of these negotiations won't just decide paychecks. It will define who truly owns the future of women's basketball. The WNBA just hit its breaking point. And no, it's not a storyline or a scandal or another viral social media dust-up. It's something far more serious, a total collapse of leadership, trust, and negotiation at the worst possible moment. Commissioner Kathy Angelbert has been suspended. And it's not just about her. It's about what her absence confirms. The people running the WNBA are no longer in control of its future. The league is fractured at the top, boiling over at the bottom, and caught in a tug-of-war between its players, its owners, and the NBA itself. All of it sparked by one issue: revenue. Right now, WNBA players receive just 9% of league revenue. NBA players get close to 50%. And with the CBA deadline landing on October 31st, the WNBA isn't just asking for a better deal. They're demanding a bigger piece of a pie they helped grow, one that still isn't being fairly shared. At the center of this storm is Caitlin Clark. Her rise has been meteoric, the kind of trajectory leagues dream about. Ratings soared, merch flew off shelves, arena attendance spiked, media outlets couldn't get enough. And suddenly, the WNBA had something it had always wanted: mainstream visibility. But there's a catch. All that momentum, it's resting on one player's shoulders. And when Clark was sidelined with injury, the truth came into focus. Ratings dipped, engagement cooled, sponsors got quiet, the illusion cracked. What looked like sustainable growth was actually a fragile dependency. The league's rise was real, but it wasn't stable. And Adam Silver knew it. The NBA commissioner, overseeing the WNBA's financial lifeline, publicly dismissed the idea of equal revenue sharing. He acknowledged the players' value, yes, but said the league's finances didn't support it. He drew a hard line. Player compensation can increase, but not proportionally. Not while the WNBA loses nearly $40 million a year. For players, this was infuriating. They've been carrying the brand, doing the media work, building fan bases, performing at elite levels. And now they're being told they're too expensive? Especially when they can point to someone like Clark as proof that the product works when it's marketed and supported correctly. The WNBA didn't stay quiet. They took it public. Through posts, comments, and direct shots at Silver, they turned a negotiation into a spectacle. The sarcasm was loud. The disrespect was mutual. And the tension only escalated. Now, with the commissioner suspended and both sides frozen, the league is teetering. Angelbert's suspension didn't come out of nowhere. She was caught in the middle, trying to please ownership, appease Silver, and respond to players all at once. But when talks stalled and the media mess spiraled out of control, someone had to take the fall. That's when it became clear Angelbert was never really the one in charge. Because when push comes to shove, the WNBA doesn't move without the NBA's approval. The league only owns 42% of itself. The rest? NBA-backed. NBA funded, NBA approved. And Silver, watching from his tower, knows exactly what's at stake. If the WNBA overextends, if it agrees to unsustainable terms, if it pushes past what its shaky business model can handle, it risks collapse. So Silver's playing defense, not against the players, necessarily, but against the possibility of locking the NBA into an agreement that the WNBA can't afford to honor. He's focused on sustainability. The players are focused on fairness. And that's where the standoff begins. But now it's public. And the thing about going public is there's no turning back. Every misstep is amplified. Every comment becomes a headline. Every move is judged by a growing, passionate, and frustrated fan base that doesn't understand how a league that looks like it's finally winning is still this close to falling apart. And that's the dangerous part. Because to most people, the WNBA looks like it's thriving. Clark is a superstar. Attendance is up. TV deals are happening. So when Silver and league owners say, "We can't pay you more," it doesn't make sense. To fans, it feels like a lie. And to players, it feels like betrayal. But behind that visibility is a brutal financial reality. The WNBA has never turned a profit. The league exists because the NBA allows it to. And now that the players are pushing for revenue equality, that foundation is being tested like never before. So who has the power? Not Angel Burt. She's gone. Not the owners. They don't even control a majority stake. Not the players. Not yet, anyway. Right now, the power lies with the NBA. With Silver. And his caution, his refusal to meet the WNBPA's demands, is sending a clear message. We'll support the WNBA, but not at any cost. The players? They're not backing down either. They see the growth. They see the engagement. They know the product is finally getting attention. And they're done waiting. They've seen what the league can become. They just want to be part of it before it's too late. That's why this moment feels different. It's not just a CBA debate. It's an identity crisis. Is the WNBA going to keep functioning as a passion project propped up by the NBA? Or is it finally going to become a professional league that compensates its athletes based on value, not viability? The clock is running out. If no deal is reached by October 31st, a lockout becomes inevitable. No games, no income, no momentum, and the risk of that is catastrophic. It wouldn't just pause growth, it would reverse it. Sponsors would vanish. Media attention would die down. Fans would move on. And Clark's impact? It would be wasted. This isn't a dramatic chapter in the league's history. It's the entire future on the line. If both sides can't reach common ground, if leadership doesn't return, if ownership doesn't commit, if the players don't get a deal they can trust, the WNBA might not survive its most visible, most successful, most promising moment yet. That's what makes this so heartbreaking. For once, the world is watching. For once, the talent is undeniable. The opportunity is real. And yet, because of outdated structures, financial dependencies, and leadership that failed when it mattered most, the league stands on the edge of implosion. It all comes down to this week. So what do you think? Should the players hold the line? Can the league survive if it gives them more? Is the NBA doing enough? Or is it time for the WNBA to take full control of its future? Drop a comment. Let us know where you stand. Like if you believe the players deserve more. Share if you've been following every twist. And subscribe, because whatever happens next, it's going to reshape the league forever. The league that fought for decades to be seen is now fighting just to survive. And it didn't happen quietly. This is what collapse looks like in real time. Open conflict between leadership and players, passive-aggressive posts traded like punches on social media, and a commissioner taken off the board in the middle of a high-stakes labor negotiation. Kathy Angel Burt is suspended. The WNBPA is furious. Adam Silver is drawing financial lines in the sand. And the October 31st deadline isn't just a bureaucratic checkpoint. It's the date this entire structure could crack in half. This was supposed to be a celebration year. Caitlin Clark exploded onto the scene like a lightning strike. Her impact wasn't just measurable, it was undeniable. Sold-out arenas. Massive broadcast numbers. Brands begging for ad space. The kind of momentum women's basketball has chased for decades suddenly arrived. and it looked like it was here to stay. But that momentum came with pressure. And now, every fault line that's been simmering under the surface is breaking wide open. Because with the rise of Clark came a mirror, one that showed everyone, fans, players, executives, exactly what was working and what was deeply broken. Revenue's up? Sure. But revenue sharing? That's where the train comes off the tracks. Right now, players get 9%. 9. The NBA players get close to 50%. That number is the heartbeat of this fight. When Adam Silver said that number wouldn't budge, at least not in the way players want, it lit a match under an already slow-burning standoff. He didn't sugarcoat it. He admitted that yes, players would be paid more. But no, they would not be getting the NBA-style revenue split. Not now. Not with losses of $40 million annually. Not when the league still depends on NBA funding to function. From a business perspective, he made his point. From a player perspective, he made it worse. Because what they heard wasn't just, not yet. They heard, not ever. They heard, no matter how much attention you generate, no matter how many jerseys you sell, no matter how much the league depends on your faces and your stories and your game, your value still has a cap. And that's what tipped this into collapse. The WNBA went to war digitally, publicly, and relentlessly. Instagram stories, Twitter jabs, side-eye captions, all directed at Silver and the structure he represents. Petty? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Because now the world knows what's at stake. And the players aren't interested in being quiet about it. The problem? The league's leadership isn't unified enough to respond. Kathy Angelbert's role was always complicated. She inherited a league half-owned by the NBA, run under a microscope, and funded by dollars that come with strings attached. Now, suspended in the middle of the most consequential negotiation in league history, it's clear she never had the autonomy to meet the players' demands even if she wanted to. And her removal didn't solve the crisis. It escalated it. With no clear leadership at the WNBA level, the NBA has become the de facto negotiator. And Silver? He's not interested in fantasy economics. He's focused on sustainability, protecting the NBA's investment and avoiding a lockout that could permanently damage the fragile growth he's watched unfold. He's made it clear the players can't have what they're asking for without breaking the model that's keeping the lights on. The players, meanwhile, are pointing at the scoreboard, at the sold-out games, the record-breaking ratings, the merch sales, the sponsorships. They're saying, you told us to grow the game. Well, we did. Now pay us like it. But the league's balance sheet tells a different story. Because here's the ugly truth. You can look successful and still be hemorrhaging money. The WNBA's revenue is up, but the expenses? Still higher. The operational structure? Still fractured. The majority ownership? Still not in the league's hands. And yet, players are being asked to trust that the payoff will come later. After the next CBA. After the next media deal. After the next Caitlin Clark-level star. But what if that moment never comes again? What if Clark's explosion was the lightning strike? What if this is the only moment they'll ever have this kind of leverage? That's why the players are going all in. They're not just fighting for a bigger paycheck. They're fighting for agency, for respect, for a voice in a league they've built from the floor up. And now that Clark's face is on every billboard, her game on every screen, her influence felt in every conversation, they're using that spotlight to force change. Whether she likes it or not, whether she wants to be involved or not, her presence is powering both sides of the argument. The WNBA is using her as proof that this league can be a commercial powerhouse. Adam Silver is using her to explain why it's not, because when she was gone, the metrics dipped. That's the risk of stardom in a league still looking for infrastructure. Clark's success shows what's possible, but also shows how little margin the league has. When one player can drive the entire narrative, it's clear the league isn't ready for long-term independence. That's why the October 31st deadline matters so much. It's not just a legal checkpoint. It's the last chance to prove the league is capable of evolving, instead of collapsing under its own contradictions. If no deal is reached, we're not talking about a pause. We're talking about a full-blown lockout. A shutoff. No games. No exposure. No forward motion. Everything the league has built in the last year? Gone. sponsors will retreat, broadcasters will walk, fans will check out, and the momentum? Completely reversed. It will be devastating, and everyone knows it. Silver doesn't want a lockout. The players don't want a lockout. Even ownership doesn't want one. But the gap between what the players deserve and what the league can promise is too wide to cross without major structural change. And structural change doesn't happen overnight, especially not in a league that doesn't control its own fate. So here we are, a commissioner benched, a league cornered, a players' union fully activated, and a rising star, Clark, whose name is now more valuable and more weaponized than ever before. If this deal gets made, it will only happen because both sides decide that survival is more important than pride. If it doesn't, the WNBA doesn't just lose a season. It loses trust, credibility, stability, and possibly its future. This was the moment the WNBA had been waiting for, and now it's at risk of losing everything it just gained. The countdown is almost over, and no one looks ready. With the CBA deadline looming like a guillotine, the WNBA is caught in a high-stakes standoff that's no longer just about numbers. It's about power, survival, identity. It's about who this league really serves and who it leaves behind when the pressure hits. And now, the league's own commissioner is gone, suspended. Kathy Angelbert, the person tasked with steering the ship through the storm, is no longer at the helm. That alone should terrify everyone paying attention. A commissioner doesn't get suspended mid-negotiation unless something is deeply broken. And here, everything is breaking at once. The players are done playing nice. The WNBPA is making their message clear, loud, and digital. They won't stand for a system that runs on their backs while telling them the money isn't there. And Adam Silver? He's holding his ground. From the outside, it looks like two sides talking past each other. On one side, Silver pointing at $40 million in annual losses, limited revenue, and a league that's never stood on its own. On the other, players pointing at sold-out crowds, surging sponsorships, and the Caitlin Clark effect that's single-handedly propping up the league's visibility. And then there's the part no one wants to say out loud, but it's sitting in plain sight. Caitlin Clark is now too big to fail. The league's explosive growth over the past year, directly tied to her rise. The energy, the fan interest, the corporate money, it all surged when she entered the spotlight. And that's why this entire negotiation has become a proxy war built around her. She's not in the room, but she's on every table, every proposal, every talking point. Her presence is the currency both sides are trading in. And that's the most dangerous part of all, because the second your league becomes dependent on one person, it stops being stable. And that's exactly what her injury exposed. The moment she stepped off the court, the league's momentum started bleeding. Ratings dropped. Engagement dipped. Media attention cooled. All the metrics that had painted this as a breakout year for the WNBA, they shrank, which is exactly what Silver is afraid of. From his seat, this isn't just a labor dispute. It's a league on life support, trying to ask for NBA-level benefits with a G League budget. And if he signs off on a 50-50 revenue split without the league having actual revenue to split, he's not negotiating, he's burying the business model. But the players aren't just asking for a number. They're asking for respect. They've watched the league use them for marketing, activism, representation, growth, and then turn around and offer them 9%. They're tired of being the public face and private afterthought, especially when they've proven what they can bring to the table when properly supported. And that's the other truth that makes this moment so volatile. The players aren't imagining things. Clark didn't create the league's potential. She revealed it. Her rise didn't fabricate fan interest. It exposed how much of it was being missed, ignored, or underdeveloped. So when Silver waves off revenue sharing, it feels like a slap in the face. Like the league is saying, thanks for bringing the spotlight. Now step back. And with Angelbert out of the way, there's no longer a buffer. No intermediary to smooth things over, spin talking points, or manufacture compromise. It's just players on one side and ownership, really the NBA, on the other. That's why this deadline isn't just about a new agreement. It's about who controls the narrative moving forward. Do the players get to demand change now that they have leverage? But does the NBA shut the door on them and say, be grateful we keep the lights on? And it gets messy, eh? Because this isn't just about compensation, it's about perception. If the WNBA agrees to a weak deal under pressure, it sends the message that visibility doesn't equal value. That even with the best ratings in history, even with the best talent pipeline the league has ever seen, even with Caitlin Clark on the front lines, women still have to wait their turn. And if that happens, the fallout won't be quiet. You'll see the top talent bolt overseas. You'll see the sponsors get nervous. You'll see broadcasters scale back their coverage. And the fan momentum? It won't take long to fade, because no one stays invested in a league that doesn't invest in itself. But if the league caves too far the other way, gives up a revenue split it can't support, it risks collapse. Financially, logistically, operationally, it would set a precedent it can't maintain. And that could lead to long-term damage, or worse, complete shutdown. So what's the solution? There isn't a perfect one, but there is a necessary one. It starts with leadership, which right now doesn't exist. The WNBA needs someone who can rebuild trust across the board. Not just with the players, but with the NBA, with media, with fans. Someone who understands the economics and the optics. Someone who can negotiate like a CEO, but communicate like a player advocate. Because this is a battle that can't be won with spreadsheets alone. It has to be won with vision. And that vision needs to include more than one superstar. It needs to build a system, not a personality cult. Because as much as Clark is helping now, she can't carry the league forever. And if she's hurt again, if she walks away, the entire platform collapses under its own weight. That's why this negotiation is so much bigger than one agreement. It's about building the infrastructure that can support what the WNBA says it wants to be. If they get this right, the players win, the fans win, the league stabilizes, and growth becomes sustainable. But if they fail, they don't just lose a season. They lose everything they've built in the past year. And they send a message, loud and clear, that no matter how big the moment is, women still aren't allowed to own it. So what now? That's the million-dollar question. Or maybe the $40 million one. The players aren't budging. Silver isn't blinking. Angel Bird is out. The clock is almost at zero. This should be the moment the WNBA steps forward into the era it's earned. Instead, it's stuck, held back by old economics, new egos, and a system that was never built to scale this fast. And if something doesn't change in the next few days, the cost won't just be financial. It'll be cultural, emotional, permanent. Because people want to believe in this league. They want to see it win. But they won't wait forever. What do you think? Can the WNBA pull this off before the deadline? Should the NBA do more to stabilize the league? Or are the players pushing too hard, too fast? Is this the tipping point for women's pro sports? Or the beginning of another lost opportunity? Drop your thoughts below. Hit the like if you're with the players. Share if you think more people need to see the stakes. And subscribe. We'll be here the moment the ink dries or the lights go out.